Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to the Grand Finals of the GSL Code S, the first premier tournament finals of 2025, and as a matter of fact, since the Esports World Cup last year, which took place back in August, we haven't had a tournament of this caliber. Now, I'm very excited for it. We're starting off this best of 7 series on the map Persephone, spawning right here. In the top left-hand corner with the blue Protoss pieces, we have none other than Hero, and his opponent down in the bottom left with the red Terran SCVs. He goes by the name of Cure. Now, this was played as of me casting it a couple of days ago, and I have not seen any of the games yet. Sadly for me, I did catch a spoiler, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but I'm hoping for you guys watching that you do not yet know the winner of this particular series. It is worth noting that Hero is an absolute monster in Protoss versus Terran. Likewise, Cure is an absolute TVP god. So in my mind, this is a very even match with maybe a slight edge towards Hero. Mostly just because Hero, you can tell when he plays a lot of the online cups that he's trying, but he's not really putting in 100% effort. But whenever he does, he seems to power up even more. And he's already considered to be the very best Protoss player on the planet. Now, speaking of Protoss, and this is something that needs to be discussed whenever we have a tournament grand finals of this caliber, Protoss has not won a StarCraft 2 tournament, at least not a premier event, for many, many years. So I decided to open up the Wikipedia list of tournament grand finals of this caliber that have been played over the last bunch of years. Shall I list off the players? So, Esports World Cup, Clem. We had the GSL before that, Dark. Before that, ESL SC2 Master Spring, Serral. Before that, Maru. Before that, Clem. Before that, Maru. Before that, Serral. Before that, Serral. Before that, Clem. Before that, Serral. Before that, Solar. Before that, Serral. Before that, Rainer. Before that, Maru. Before that, Serral. Serral, Maru. You're catching the general theme here. It's about 3 to 4 pro gamers winning practically everything. And there is an argument to be made that Protoss is a little bit weaker than the other races. I mean, since obviously those tournaments have been played, we've had quite a few balance updates, and Protoss, I think at this point in time, is better than they have been in a long time. But there's no denying that Protoss has just not won a premier event in far too many years. So, they've made it to the grand finals though, specifically this man. He's made it to the grand finals a bunch of times, but then he just barely never brings it home. It's going to be a Stalker start here into a Sentry. Probe Scout on the other side of the map decides to, well, keep these Reapers occupied for a little bit longer, as Cure decides to open up with a barracks into a factory. Nothing all too surprising there, but we are pumping out a lot of those Reapers, so we have to see how much work he can really put in. It is, of course, something that costs mostly gas, 50 minerals, 50 gas for each of those Reapers, so it allows you to, well, either spend your gas somewhere else or save up some additional minerals. Let's see. Yeah, there's always been a lot of debate, right? Like, what exactly causes this, well, this sort of problem where Protoss just hasn't won a premier tournament in a while? Why is that the case? Why do we not see Protoss performing better at the absolute highest level? Actually, hold that thought for just a little bit, as we do have the Reapers now committing. The Sentry, though, with Force Fields, there is a shield battery. I don't think they're going to be able to achieve too much. Cure is going to hide in the corner of the main base for a little bit. Keep in mind that the Reapers do generate energy very rapidly. He's trying to create a bit of a distraction maybe to get those Hellions to drive into the natural expansion. But not quite the case. Now, these are units, though, that fall off, so you do need to sort of commit at some point. This is not a bad beginning. Shield battery trying its best, and you know what? Woo, okay, that force field could have been ever so slightly further to the right. We would have been able to trap a lot more. You can tell here that the firepower of these units is just not that high when there is a shield battery actively repairing everything. And it's charged on the back of this as well for Hero. So he is not just going to roll over and lose this game here. He, as a matter of fact, is looking to defend this and then eventually go across the map and counterattack. Charge is going to hit like a truck. Okay, what exactly do we have here from Cure? It's going to be a factory into a Banshee. Cloaking Field is already researching too. We have another barracks coming up eventually. So this does mean that Stimpack is not going to be done anytime soon. But Cure will likely be able to put on continued pressure using units like, for example, this. In the meantime, though, Charge is finishing on the other side of the map. We'll see a third Nexus for now, I think. How many gateways are we on? Just the 3 of them. So maybe Charge was mostly meant actually as a defensive measure. Most commonly, we see Protoss players going Blink first out of the Twilight Council. And Blink obviously is really nice offensively, but it's also very helpful when it comes to, well, for example, shooting down units like this. Zealots, believe it or not, kind of garbage when it comes to killing Banshees. Hallucinated Phoenix, though, is going to confirm exactly what's going on, and I think this is going to give us a nice little lull in the game, where Terran will try their very best to build up towards a Stimpack research. And Protoss, I mean, maybe he's going to commit. I find it risky, though. It's really difficult to push into a Terran base like this. There is no bunker set up, so maybe he can get something done, but it won't be easy. If he commits, the problem is, right, Zealots, when they use charge, it's going to be on cooldown for a couple seconds. So you can't easily go in and then go out again, which is what you can do with Stalkers. You cannot really use charge as a defensive measure. You can just kind of run the Zealots to their deaths in a one-way trip, but I don't think that's a good idea. No way. Really? He does it? Oh my god, he's an absolute madman. There's tons of Marines in the main base, though. Okay. Well, you know what? Scratch everything I said. Apparently you can charge in and send the units back out. That was a Marine, I think, and then one Marine and then one siege tank for 3 Zealots. Honestly, not a bad trade. In the meantime, we have the Banshees going to town on the other side of the map, trying to put in a little bit of work. Observer is out, however, and yeah, he's going to be able to get one more worker, maybe one more over at the third, but these units have mostly been countered. Okay. So why exactly has Protoss not won a whole lot of tournaments over the last couple of years? I think there's a couple of different factors. First off, MaxPax, who is considered to be either the #1 or the #2 Protoss in the world, does not play offline tournaments. And that is one theme that we have for the absolute biggest tournaments in StarCraft 2, the ones with the most prestigious prize pools and all the rest of it. Pretty much all of those events are played in an offline setting, meaning that you have to actually, well, probably play in front of a crowd, but at the very least not play at your own computer, right? You have to actually physically go to, and MaxPax doesn't do that. That alone already has a very significant impact on everything, because when you look at the winners of tournaments over the last bunch of years, it's been mostly Clem, Serral, Maru, like a Rainer or two. Dark has won it, but it's mostly been like an absolute handful of players. Secondly, though, Protoss has certainly had some struggles, right? Like, Protoss certainly has had some issues over the last couple of years. That being said, the player base certainly has... Ooh, this is the Zealots ultimately falling. I think most of the StarCraft 2 player base at this point has realized that Protoss is actually in a really good spot. If you look at the highest ranked players, they're all struggling against Protoss more so than ever before. And in the past, Protoss was played as kind of like a tricky race, right? Like, for example, the style that SOS would like to go for, where he just... This is a long time ago, I guess, but he's recently been playing again a little bit, so... he's fresh in my mind. But anyways, he plays that very tricky style with lots of aggression all over the map and such cheesy build orders. Nowadays, though, you can play macro quite well, assuming you keep your Colossus alive, and that is a really bad beginning of this engagement here for Hero, who loses not only the Colossus, but now also the sentries on the back of this. Okay, perfect attack here by Cure. I don't think that was supposed to go quite as smoothly as it did here, but he saw that Colossus just sort of standing around, and he decided to commit. Obviously, though, Protoss was distracted with some of the multitasking. Not easily done. Yeah. And ultimately, that now solidly puts Cure in the lead for this particular game. There is a 4th command center, though, or a Protoss command center, that is. There's a 4th Nexus now done. And economically, the damage has not really been that significant. That is recoverable. The problem is this will be multi-layered aggression here from Cure. So he's got his own 3rd base ready to go right now. We're probably going to see a Ghost Academy in a moment. I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. He doesn't yet have... Okay, I was going to say, he doesn't yet have the 2nd engineering bay or the armory to really go into the double upgrades on the back of this. He's making it now, so maybe Hero can actually recover. The Colossus is unfortunate. The sentries and the Colossus, if those had not gone down, I would have liked this position way better. Now, Hero does see the glimpse of that medevac drop sneaking into the main base, gets one medevac full of units, or at least half full of units, before the troops unload. This drop is not going to be that successful. I like the drop in, or I like the warp in location over there too. Can we blink after this? Get one more volley, okay. One medevac falls on the way out. What about this medevac in the natural expansion? Yeah, okay. Also, easily pushed away. And if we can get just a couple of those Stalkers to hit this medevac... Okay. He is indeed going to be able to shut that one down. Okay. High-level StarCraft 2, it's always difficult to come back, right? When you lose important units, and that is one of the things that Protoss has to endure way more than the other races. When you lose your heavy hitters, you spend so much time and so many resources getting those troops out that, in general, when they're down, well, they're hard to replace. Still, though, Hero has a good economy. 69 workers, I would consider quite nice. And he's even feeling like he can be aggressive right now. Now, general rule of thumb with Protoss, don't attack without a prism. Don't attack without an observer. He is breaking both of those basic rules. That being said, additional Colossi have shown up. Yeah, I don't like that push. I don't like that attack at all. When you have a prism, at least you can kind of juggle the units back to safety. When you are in a pinch... That being said, though, Cure is chasing this down. Not a lot of medevacs for him, obviously, because he's lost them to all of the drops. A lot of the Marines and the Marauders are now low in HP. Ghost Academy is late. I don't really like the timing of that very much. He's prioritized the double upgrades, but that does mean that Stalkers and basically all of these beefy Protoss units in general, they're gonna be much harder to counter. Ghost Academy will be nice, though, against clumped up units like, for example, Zealots. If we see a transition towards, for example, High Templar into Archon, which would not be an odd one at this point for Hero, yeah. I don't think it'd be a bad unit to add into the mix. Final 3 barracks are building as well. Second starport coming up. Probably mostly, to try and get those Vikings rolling, because it's very clear that Hero wants to go into a ton of Colossi. New Nexus, though, is now building in both the top right as well as the 3 o'clock position. This is right next to the golden minerals. In case you're unfamiliar with Persephone, it's a relatively new map. It's been around for a couple weeks at this point. Maybe a month. Maybe 2 months. I don't know. It's been a little bit. Anyways, it's relatively new in StarCraft terms. There's a lot of these speed circles surrounding this base. If you don't respect it as a Terran player here, Protoss is going to get a huge eco boost, and it's exactly what Hero needs right now to try and, well, stabilize. I don't think he's actually in that bad of a position anymore. Cure, though, is finishing up his double upgrades. He does have a good set of units now in general. You don't need a ton of ghosts, just a handful in the mix is really, really nice. And I believe he's got enough of them already. We look at the army size over here, so this is the total supply count of both of the players' armies. You can tell here that, well, Cure has been outgrowing Hero for a while now. Hero, though, is trying to, well, gather all of his units again, right? So we've gone into a Dark Shrine as well. Double upgrades inside of the Forge. Economy is booming. I like this position for Cure way better than a few minutes ago. I think he's been bleeding out one too many troops, and he is playing this quite passively. We did watch, by the way, Cure take on SOS as well during the GSL Code S. And against SOS, he played a very similar passive approach after getting extremely far ahead. Now, I don't think his advantage was quite as significant this time around. But there's no denying that if he decides to play it passively against somebody of Hero's caliber, he is likely to be overwhelmed. Look at this, 5 Colossi. We don't normally make 5 Colossi. Normally we make at most about 3. Hero doesn't really mind playing the crazy strats. So what he's trying to do right now is target down those Vikings one at a time. Good EMP. Sentries no longer have energy, but what he's trying to do is kite those Vikings, kill them with the Stalkers, uses the healing circle here too. Obviously that's a big buff, especially for Protoss, especially when you have the 3 o'clock base, it's close by. Normally Protoss does not regen their health in any way, shape, or form. But of course the healing circle, a new map feature. Persephone's the first map that's featuring it. Yeah, it allows you to keep those Colossi alive, and I wonder if Hero is actually getting the job done. Massive engagement, but the Vikings are not plowing through those Colossi quickly enough. Stalkers are still available too. He snipes another one as he blinks away once again. We have a ton of gateways though. Dark Shrine is also now researching Shadow Strike. That's the blink ability. Hero is taking the base in the far bottom right-hand corner, and Cure, I mean, he's kind of stuck in his starting quadrant, right? He's only really occupying the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Hero has been given full map control, and I think that has been a significant error on the side of this South Korean Terran player, because Hero can just do whatever he pleases now. He can even go into Skytles from here if he really wants to, although I think he just is going to try and see if he can close this out with the army composition that he's got right now. But look at the minimap. This is the way that Zerg players like to approach the matchup. Not usually what we see from Protoss. But Hero, he was given a finger. He grabbed the entire hand. And he is now, well, Zerging the Terran. GG. Hero is a dangerous man. Sure, he may have fallen behind. Sure, that first attack from Cure was very nice. But then, well, when it ultimately mattered, Cure decided to play it a bit too passively. Hero obviously had to take some chances, right? He knew what the opponent was capable of, and this is one of the themes that you will see in the GSL. Generally speaking, a lot of StarCraft tournaments, including the premier ones, they are played over the course of, like, say, for example, a weekend. Right, a weekend tournament, sometimes maybe 4 or 5 days or so. Not uncommon whatsoever, but most of the time it's like 2 to 3 days. The GSL, historically, used to last months. These days, well, I mean, we're not quite at that level anymore with the current state of StarCraft 2, but it still has taken at least a good couple of weeks. And it means that you have time to prepare for potential opponents. It allows you to, well, maybe ask a bunch of your pro gamer friends or maybe a bunch of your teammates to help study some of the replays of your possible competitors, and, well, you might just be able to figure out some tendencies. And it's one of the really nice things that you can benefit from. And it seems to me that Hero has done his homework. Hero in that previous game knew exactly the way that Cure would follow up a lead. Cure decided to slowly expand and just build on his advantage. And Hero decided, you know what? I will cut 17 corners, make double Nexus, go up to 5 Colossi. And if my opponent attacks me in the meantime, I am super dead. But if he doesn't, I can claw my way back into the game. Well, now we find ourselves on Tokamak, and Cure has decided to go for a cheeky little proxy barracks on the other side of the map. Okay, command center on the low ground. A little bit late. All of this will be scouted though by Hero, so even though he hasn't seen exactly what's going on, this does feel a little bit funky. Tech lab over here though. I mean, it must indicate, is that SCV stuck? Oh yeah, okay. I guess we are gonna lift up the barracks. You probably want to make sure you free it, so you can build a bunker as well. Yeah, I think he's going to lift the barracks just to free the SCV. This will be a Marauder proxy. Concussive shells. You can produce about 2 Marauders while that research is going on. And it basically gives the Marauders an ability to cast a temporary slow on the opponent with every single one of their auto attacks. It's really, really strong when Protoss is not prepared for it. So we have a shield battery coming up. It's a double sentry? Hero, you've seen the timing. Oh my god, the command center even got cancelled. Corners are being cut here by Cure. He has Hero believing that everything here is normal. Double sentry is not how Protoss players normally start off this matchup. He's going additional gateways though, so that is going to allow him a lot more production. It's just that there's this pylon over here that is currently powering everything, and that is an easy target for those 2 Marauders right now that are already available. And this is when your heart sinks as a Protoss player, because you realize that life is going to be extremely difficult moving forward. Shield battery does go down. I quite like that force field though. Okay, he's getting a full wraparound here, pretending like it's Warcraft 3, trying to get a surround on the opponent's hero units. In the meantime, the SCV train has arrived. The additional Marines that were produced, we have some stutter stepping as well on the sentries to try and maximize the damage. Marines and Marauders kiting against the probes to the best of their abilities too. A lot of shield batteries though are finishing up, and while sentries don't have a lot of DPS and they don't have a particularly high amount of sustain in general, they can put in a lot of work. The pylon though is being targeted down. He decides to use the shield battery's energy to try and replenish the shields on that pylon. Pylon is at 9 HP. Oh my god, he can't kill it. He can't kill it. He doesn't have the DPS. 2 more Marines show up as well. 8, 7. Oh my god, no way. The pylon lives. Wow, Cure immediately taps out. I thought those 2 Marines were gonna make the difference, but there was already too much damage done to that Terran army. I can't believe that Hero actually held that with was practically just sentries. Sentries and shield batteries. Those are 2 at least in my mind, supportive units. The shield battery obviously nice for defending, while the sentry good as a general purpose, you know, support caster. Not really as your main damage dealer, but apparently they work together reasonably well against those early game troops there from the Terran player. Whew, okay, well now we find ourselves on ley lines. Keep in mind this is a best of 7, so the first player to win 4 maps will win. And Hero is already halfway there. Yeah, not bad. That being said though, I don't think Cure played poorly in game number 1. And in game number 2, he took a bit of a chance. Extremely close. If he would have killed that pylon, I think it would have been, well, it would have been hard. It would have been very difficult for Protoss to get back into the swing of things then, because everything there on the low ground was powered by a single pylon. Obviously, Hero could make a new one, so maybe even if the pylon would go down, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but that was close. I like actually that Cure decided to mix it up a bit, because the thing is, right, when you're playing a best of 3, which is what a lot of the GSL is, usually the way that the GSL runs is that there's 4-man groups, and you play a, well, it's not quite a round-robin format, but you do play the majority of the players in a best of 3, and then basically the best performer of the group, the 2 best performers of a 4-man group, they move on. So you play a lot of best of 3 series. And I think in a best of 3, you can do the same thing several times, right? Because at most you play 3 maps. So if you have one strategy that you really favor, you can probably do it at least twice. Maybe win with it twice, the series is over. When you're playing a best of 7 though, you have to mix it up. And in my mind, Hero is a pretty creative player. You never really know exactly what he's going to do. He's a bit of a wild man. At least when you compare it to, say, for example, the showtimes of this world. Maybe the classics, maybe even the max faxes of this planet. There is quite a bit of predictability. Hero can kind of just do whatever. Cure, though, is somebody who usually likes to do the same thing over and over and over again, at least broadly speaking. He's not really a cheeser. He doesn't really go for a lot of Proxy Marauder builds like the one we just saw, at least not in the games that I have recently seen him play. So I like to see him mix it up a bit. He gave it a shot, didn't quite work out, but at the very least it will be in the back of Hero's mind for the rest of the series. He might just bring it out again. Oh, well, that's a little awkward. Reaper, you're still dead, though. Yeah. He thought he was going to be able to stay alive for a little bit longer. Not the case. Okay. Twilight Council build here for Hero. In the first game, we saw him go charge. In the second game, he went for triple gateway before building any tech. Now we're going straight Twilight Council, and I'm assuming we're mixing it up and going Blink, which is mixing it up considering the first 2 games of this series. But it is, of course, the gold standard for Terran versus Protoss. Either way, Stalker is already going across the map. We should really be targeting the SCV. In the meantime, there is some damage as well being dealt inside of the main base here of the Protoss. 1 probe has gone down so far. 3 probes actually in total. I must have missed the second one. SCV in the meantime, though, did not quite clear the building of the command center. And that is a problem because you need the CC not only just for, well, economy, you also need it for supply. So a new supply depot was already produced inside of the main base for Cure. Cyclone is now available, and that lock-on is indeed going to be enough. Gets repaired up back to full. And the hero of the Terran will live. And now we have an extra supply depot, I guess. But that is better than being supply blocked. Yep, so it is indeed going to be Blink. This is all very conventional here for Hero. Nothing too weird. Oh, getting a medevac would be huge. Woo, that's close. Okay, SCVs should be able to repair it back up. Yeah, medevac mostly just here baiting shots now. Oh, misfire on the wrong Stalker. That's also not ideal for Cure. Should have definitely... Okay, well... the siege tank is here. Should have definitely targeted that low HP Stalker a bit sooner. But the siege tank, well, it got the job done. Robo facility on the back it is. We're going 4-gate. Okay. So 4-gate, not very common in 2025. This used to be a normal Protoss build for several years. But Protoss players kind of shot themselves in the foot when they did this build so frequently that Terrans were also trained to be incredibly effective against this exact opener. So 4 gateways means that you can deal a lot of damage with Stalkers. You might just be able to obtain the victory on the other side of the map. For a long time, Terran players were just straight up dying to this push. Problem is that if you don't position your structures in the correct way, you don't have your siege tanks in the right spot, you don't pull your SCVs in time, you will at the very least lose a bunch of stuff. Be it siege tanks, be it the tech lab, be it SCVs, be it cyclones, medevacs, whatever. You lose so much that it's difficult to recover. These days, we usually see 3 gates or even 2, and then straight into a 3rd base. Hero is going for a delayed 3rd base in favor of additional gateway production. I like this build, but primarily whenever Protoss has a flying start. Imagine he would have killed the medevac when the Cyclones and the Marines were inside of it. Or one Cyclone and like a bunch of Marines. Oh, this is also a good snipe. Yeah, in that case, I would have loved this attack. In this instance, I'm not so sure about it. I feel like it's a dangerous play. I think he also just showed one of the toes of the Stalker there inside of that scan. So Cure knows that indeed the Protoss army is near. This is going very nicely here for Cure so far. Ooh, he wants to go into the main. He's going to go into the main. This is going to get awkward. Yeah, we're shoving the units. Nice blink control there in between the mineral fields. Stimpack is still going to get denied. Medevac, he wanted to get one of those. Siege Tank is going to siege up back in the main base. There are, however, 4 tanks available. Stalker's now awkwardly derping in between a bunch of SCVs. If he just tries to maximize the damage that he can deal to those... Oh my god, really? A warp in too? If he just tries to maximize damage, I think he's going to die to the counterattack. Like, sure, you're going to be able to kill a ton of workers, but you need to hold the counterattack from Cure. And it's going to hit like a truck. If you can get the Prism, that would be huge. Okay, Prism will not go down. That is 22 SCVs now in total down the drain, but at the cost of only really 4 Marines and a siege tank. Like, that is a lot of dead Stalkers. Well, at least it's going to trigger a complete all-in now from Cure, who decides to pull the boys 2 games back-to-back. I don't think this was the original plan. Only a handful of troops will stay at home to continue some mining. But he needs to commit to this push, and he needs to get the job done with this particular attack. Being 3-0 behind in a best-of-7 series is a disaster, though. So you need to get the job done, but I think he has everything he needs. Then again, though, a Dark Shrine is coming up, and if Hero can warp in a bunch of Dark Templar, he's trying to buy time for it, gets one of the siege tanks there. If he can get a bunch of Dark Templar, there's only 2 command centers available, not a lot of orbital command energy, so there won't be a ton of scans. Gateways, though, have been produced on the low ground as part of the wall-off, and that's 3 of them getting unpowered. That's exactly what Cure tried to do in the previous game. There are new gateways building inside of the main base. Dark Shrine is now done. We have some counterattack damage as well. But most of the game, I think, will be decided over here. We need to warp in DTs. Yeah, but he can't. That's the real problem. Not all heroes wear capes, but this guy does. He basically has to kill an entire Terran army, and you know what? The Terran army didn't even care when the scan first went off. Oh, he decides to build a missile turret inside of the opponent's main base. I actually love it. It makes so much sense. Does he have another scan available? He will in about 8 seconds. He does. Yeah, he's got 2 in the main. He's got 2 in the main. Cure was already prepared for this. He knows what Hero's antics are like, and I believe with this particular push, even though he's got very little economy of his own on the back of this, he is going to be able to obtain the victory. GG. And now we've got ourselves a series. I've decided to fast forward through the first couple minutes of the next game, mostly just because everything is quite normal, until the fact that, well, now Cure is researching concussive shells. Now, concussive shells, 2.5 minutes or so in the game, inside of the main base, is a little bit awkward. He's gone for another barracks, but I'm not exactly sure what the plan for these units is. Because sure, you can do this, right? You can do it like what we saw in the previous games, in the second game of this best of 7, but then he built the barracks on the other side of the map. This is going to be quick concussive, a late factory, and just in general, maybe he was worried for like a counterattack. Maybe he can like snipe the opponent's first adept. But we don't have an adept. I mean, there's one available now, but it's certainly not on the other side of the map. This is once more a quick sentry start here for Hero. I think in Cure's homework, right? So Cure must have done his homework, and he must have seen some weird games that Hero has been playing on maybe Maganatha in particular. So that's this map. I think he was anticipating a different strategy here than the one that we see from our Protoss. Hero probably knows what's happening here, and he'll be quite happy with the current state of things, because it's very odd to have a bunch of Marauders standing at the gate. Okay, well, Cyclone on the back of this, Stimpack on the back of this too, but it does mean that we won't really see a ton of aggression here from Terran. I mean, we can go into Stimpack, of course, but there won't be any Hellions, there won't really be any flying units. We're just gonna go straight into Bio. And Cure, he wanted to play hyper defensively. Well, I guess he gets to do it, but not really in the way that he had anticipated. A little bit of a supply block here as well. Actually, no, he just finished another depot. Fair enough. Okay. So what exactly is going on inside of the main base of Hero? Well, it's going to be Blink first. He decides to grab the watchtower as well on the far top right. Mostly just trying to see if maybe there could be a medevac leaving, because obviously he's seen Marauders. It's a little bit funky. Could there be a medevac already going across? I would actually like to see a long, drawn-out macro game on Meganatha. This map is still relatively recent, and there's a lot of map features, like for example this cooling tower that we haven't really seen come into play much yet. So the cooling towers in the top right and then also the bottom left, when they are destroyed, they will actually collapse on top of the Selnaga tower, if I'm not mistaken, and then destroy the vision, which is kind of cool. But, yeah, only time will tell if we're ever going to get there. Well, we will get there, but maybe not so much in this particular game. Templar Archives, coming up. Interestingly enough, we haven't seen Protoss go for Storm in any game yet. And maybe in this game, we're just doing it for Archons in charge. But a lot of Protoss players, okay, have been favoring the quick Storm research because, of course, of that new energy recharge ability on the Nexus that allows you to, well, quickly get some of those additional storms down. Hero's got a lot of vision on the map. He has seen that the opponent is moving out. Stimpack here is at a reasonable time, although, oh my god, really? 3 games back to back to back? We're just doing another all-in? Okay. Well, after playing a very passive game number 1 on Persephone, apparently Kira's got the taste of blood. He got ahead in that particular game and he decided, you know what? We're gonna chill at home and make some command centers. In the last bunch of games, he is no longer keen to play a game like that. Now, Storm is finishing, and this is a slow push from Cure. So Storm is going to hit like a truck, assuming he can actually get it done. Oh my god, it's only just now finished. I think he wanted to try and get it down yeah, a little quicker. Maybe missing out on a chrono. We should certainly be canceling that Nexus though. Really? We're gonna keep it around? Maybe just as like a target. That Nexus should never ever finish. May as well get your 300 minerals back. Hero? Hero! Yo, somebody nudge Hero. We need to cancel that Nexus. Oh no. What? Okay. We just wanted to give the opponent a little 400 mineral donation. This is what we call a hero moment. That's not an official term, but it is one that I would like to dub. Hero has a lot of weird moments like that. Oh my god, the bunker just got salvaged, but it's going to funnel so many of those zealots straight through that choke point, and those siege tanks are having a grand old time. Nexus or not, it doesn't really matter. Hero still has a ton of resources in the bank too, and this slow push is, well, it's gonna take a while, but I don't think it's gonna be stoppable. Then again though, Cure did lose a lot of his SCVs here at the front. He doesn't have a ton of workers on the back of this either. He's slowly remaking some of it, and there will probably be some mules. Yeah, we can say there's a couple mules mining on the other side of the map. So economically, he's fine. Now the siege tank is within range of the Nexus, though. There's still 4 bunkers available, and those bunkers are going to be pretty nice when it comes to keeping the Terran units alive. I mean, High Templar there, getting some additional energy. Yeah. I mean, he's about 4 zealots short. Would have been nice to cancel them. Anyways, I'll shut up about it. No, 4 zealots alone would not have made much of a difference. But Cure is marching into the natural expansion of the Protoss as he obtains the victory. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map Torches. Yeah, and things like that Nexus cancel or the Lector off in the previous game, they are they always make Protoss on the whole look a little bit foolish, right? So what I mean with that is if we look at the absolute cream of the crop of the Zerg players and then also the Terran players that we have in StarCraft, if you look at the clinical precision of somebody like Serral, or for example the micro that somebody like Clem is capable of, and then we see Protoss forgetting to cancel a Nexus, it feels like they're... Hero has phenomenal moments too. Like, he is genuinely one of the very best players we've ever had in the game, but he also has those moments where he just... It's sometimes frustrating as a StarCraft fan to watch Hero. It's a very emotional roller coaster. If you watch Formula 1, it's like being a huge fan of Ferrari. Ferrari, in case you're unfamiliar, I don't really feel affiliated with one team in particular, but Ferrari fans in F1 have been hurt for many, many, many years. And you can see it in the driver's eyes. They have this distant stare after every race. It's a sad... And Hero reminds me a little bit of that, you know? Very passionate fans. A lot of players that would wish they were at the absolute top. But then, well, sometimes you just look at the strategy and you just... I don't know, you just lift up your shoulder and shake your head. It doesn't... It doesn't make a lot of sense. Obviously, though, phenomenal execution right there from Cure. And I think even with the Nexus Council, that game was still in the bag for our Terran player. But it is the type of stuff that does look a little bit silly. All right, Hero has been showing us, though, some phenomenal gameplay so far in this series. But now he has lost 2 games back-to-back. And losing 2 games back-to-back, that's painful. That's frustrating. Momentum is a very real thing in a series of StarCraft. Even during a tournament run, we oftentimes see it when a player starts winning, right? They just keep winning. Sometimes you may be the underdog going into a series, and I don't think Hero is the underdog in a series like this, but maybe Cure is ever so slightly. Honestly, hard to say. Maybe it's like 55% in favor of Hero. Either way, sometimes you may feel like you're the underdog, but when you start winning one series, you might just, well, find yourself winning a lot more. Confidence goes a very long way. And it's pretty clear to me that Cure is feeling good, right? He's done a bunch of very aggressive builds back to back to back. Now we're opening up with something at least somewhat more conventional. Let's see what we can do here. Torches is a pretty normal macro map. I say that mostly because in the modern spirit of StarCraft, it is pretty standard, but still some crazy variety. We want more of a quick charge, though. You know what? He's just marching straight in. Hero just marched straight into the base. Oh my god, no depots lifted. We have a bit of micro, I guess, happening inside of the main base of the Protoss player, but that is multitasking that Cure should certainly be able to deal with. This is so much damage being dealt right now. There is no prism available out on the map. Those units from Hero just marched from his own natural straight across the map, and that's it. That is actually so much damage being done here. What in the world? 18 SCVs just died. In the meantime, the Banshee on the other side of the map also got denied. And even though maybe Hero looked a little foolish in the previous game, this is the type of stuff that does not look good for Terran at all. That was way more damage than Cure was ever supposed to take from that. He's been skipping bunkers at the front every single game. He let those units into the main base too. Preoccupied for just a split second with the Banshee inside of the main base, well, he immediately paid the price. He will still have Stimpack though. Combat Shields is coming up on the back of this as well. Concussive Shells has already been a saving grace before. Wouldn't mind seeing it. And when in doubt, as Terran, you can always pull the boys. It's something Cure has now done 3 games in a row. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again, because he only has 31 of them, although he is remaking some. Problem is, if he decides to play a straight-up macro game from here, like, he's already behind. Hero can do whatever he likes. And what he likes so far is a very conventional follow-up. We're going into a Robo facility, so, yeah, Immortal production's nice. I wouldn't mind a Robo Bay here in a moment, but honestly, as long as he defends whatever is going to be coming out of Cure next, I think he should be okay. Now, we do have a nice set of upgrades finishing up. Medevac goes across the map as well. Banshee swoops in and tries their hand at getting a bit lucky. Already, though, a shield battery has been set up. We could also go into a Templar Archives. Wouldn't mind any of it. Hero for now, though, mostly playing that Gateway Man style. Zealots, Stalkers, and then a bunch of supplemental units. Although you guys, you guys were a real army in game number 2. That was a banger of a game. Robo Bay on the back of this. Is Hero just gonna try and march up the ramp again? Is that what we're gonna do? I mean, it's worked once before. Will it work a second time as well? I think we're just gonna go. So he's loaded the medevac full of the Immortals. Yeah, I think we just A-move here. Yeah. Sent the Immortals onto the Marauders. He was here to maybe snipe a bunch of siege tanks. There are no siege tanks. Still though, the Marauders are putting in a lot of work. Oh, Prism! Ooh, Prism gets sniped. Nicely done here by Cure, actually. Using the Marines as a flank. You know what? Best case scenario there for our Red Terran. I mean, he did lose 34 SCVs right now in 8 minutes. That is more SCVs than your average Bronze League player makes throughout an entire game. It's, sorry, Bronze League players catching strays. That was unnecessary. But this is still a push that can definitely hurt. Colossus is coming, but it won't have ranged. The problem is this low ground, right? So you can try and march up, but fighting from the low ground up towards the high ground is always difficult. A Widow Mine available. Might be the first Widow Mine, actually, of the entire series, which is also kind of ironic. There's the Colossus. Colossus is getting microed this time around, and it has put in a lot of work. SCVs that were with this attack have also died. I don't see this working out in Cure's favor. He's losing a medevac as well on his way out. 2 medevacs have already gone down. And while there are still some remnants of Terran units left over, this attack is fizzling out. Some of the units might be able to go home, but there's not much to go home to. GG. And that means that we find ourselves at match point on Ultra Love. Hero, you've got a chance to do the impossible. For Protoss to win a premier StarCraft 2 tournament for the first time in far too many years. No pressure. I mean, a little bit of pressure, actually. But don't put too much pressure on yourself. Because StarCraft's hard. It is extremely easy to mess up. A lot of these games have been on a razor's edge. You gotta try and bring it home now. Cure is not gonna go down without a fight. Cure has been a bit unlucky as well, by the way, in these games. Especially that one pylon that stayed alive. Like, if that one pylon would have died in the second game, there's a very real chance that the scoreboard would have been in reverse. And suddenly, then, you know, it would be a lot more difficult. At that point, Cure would have won 3 games back to back to back. SCV pools all around. Yeah, that previous game, I mean, we're talking very slim margins. So what did Hero do? Well, Hero marched up towards the opponent's base right when Cure was distracted microing a Banshee. And ultimately, that's a frustrating one because that Banshee wasn't going to be able to get any kills anyway. Problem is, you want to maximize some of the damage, but it was fighting a mineral line where there was already a shield battery. So when there's a shield battery, you're not really going to be able to get any kills anyway. Well, at least we're on Ultra Love, and the red player did spawn on the red side of the map. The blue player did spawn on the blue side of the map, so that makes me pretty happy. Yeah, looks good. Doesn't hurt my feelings. It seems to be uncommon for some reason. For some reason, it's always the other way around. Okay, so Hero's got some chances here. Do you decide to do something weird? Problem is, the map does not really allow a lot of creativity. This is one of the 2 maps that are left over from the previous map pool. So it's this map together with landlines. Those maps are already tried and true. Like, we know how these maps perform and how they can be played. Usually when new maps are introduced, players will figure out new strategies, new hiding spots. But this is a map that these players will probably have played more than 1,000 games of Terran versus Protoss on, so they know the map in and out. They know exactly how this needs to be played. And in general, this is also just a very standard map, right? There's not really a whole lot of tricks, there's not a whole lot of shenanigans. When you expand, you can kind of expand away from the opponent too, which usually allows for some more passive games. Not a bad idea though, because if there's one thing that's sort of been lacking so far in this series, it's just a straight up game. We haven't had a really normal match. Maybe the first game of the series was like the most conventional one, but that was Hero deciding to take a lot of chances and go mass expand, mass Colossus, and he got away with it. Let's see. This is looking like a pretty conventional start here as well. Widowmine opener. Yeah. A good old Widowmine drop, man. How about a good old Widowmine drop? It's just gonna be a single Widowmine inside of a Medevac, and I think we're gonna try and burrow it over here. This is where I'm predicting we're gonna try and burrow it. Come on, make me look good, Kier. This one time. What? Where? Oh, the Medevac is just about to spawn. Here we go, come on. Zoom. Sorry, Jimmy, you're not allowed. Well, this is always annoying. One of the big advantages of those Sentry First builds, or at least the quick Sentry openers, is you can get the hallucination energy. And you can just see exactly what's going on. Already Stalker is running on over in this direction. Yeah. And even though I thought we were going to burrow the Widowmine, it's not going to burrow anywhere. Once more, by the way, we go charge first. I find this so funny. Like, Hero has got some of the best micro out of any Protoss player. He's the one really that popularized going, well, blink first. But we're going charge. I mean, it worked out brilliantly so far in the games where he went charge first. May as well. All right, well, the surprise has been spotted. Other than the hallucination scout, that one did cost a little bit of money. And you know what? You know what? Maybe I will be smart. Come on, Cure. Right over here. Nah. Okay, fine. Immediately upon that Widowmine dying, we will see the Nexus going up at the 6 o'clock position. All the way at the bottom of the map. Hero is feeling lucky after that previous match, but yeah, not gonna happen. Hero's actually building up a bunker there. He hasn't really opted for bunkers in his natural expansion. Decides to cancel it too this time around after spotting that it was only going to be a very small amount of pressure as the Zealots just go back home. Okay, Robo Bay on the back it is. Stimpack now just about to finish up. Barracks number 3. Will we see a third command center? So far, Kira's been allergic to third command centers ever since Persephone. Ever since the first game of the series, I don't think he's made a third command center. Are we gonna pull the boys again? No! I was joking! Dude, this is the 4th game in a row where Cure is pulling the boys. Okay. This man's like a piranha, dude. There's like one drop of blood in the water somewhere, and he's smelling it. He needs to get his teeth onto some of these Protoss units, apparently. Well, you know what? The SCVs are functioning as a phenomenal meat shield. That is obviously a hallucinated Colossus, not a real one. Those Zealots, yeah, those Zealots just got absolutely massacred. Now that's a real Colossus, and it is fighting its natural enemy. The Marines will get roasted really quick, even though Hero's army there got cleaned up super fast. That was 14 SCVs going down. And honestly, all that Hero needs to do right now is hold. He's got himself an eco advantage just by, well, killing the opponent's attacking units, right? Those SCVs, well, they're putting in the work. Second Colossus just about. I think that is this push shut down. Oh, well, Hero wants to see if he can go down the ramp. That is always a dangerous decision to make. Only a handful of Zealots in the mix. Those Colossi are being targeted by the siege tanks. One of them goes gliding down the ramp, and I think Hero just got a little overly ambitious. Yeah, he saw tournament fame flash in front of his eyes. Unsiege siege tank. Trying to see if it can maybe win the one-on-one battle with a Colossus. Nah, okay. Here's that third Nexus, much like one of the previous games. Maybe we should have cancelled it, although I feel like in this particular instance, we had a very good case for keeping it alive. There is an Immortal in the mix too, but Cure is trying to see if he can tighten the noose, Good targeting right there with the siege tanks as he kills the second Colossus too. There's one pylon to power most of this. I don't know if the robot facility is not within range of that secondary pylon. Cure, I think you got lucky here, man. I don't think if we play this out 5 more times, you win a single one of the instances. Hero got over eager. He should have waited for one more warp in. I think if he had like 4 more zealots in that fight when he went down the ramp, it would have been okay. He's once more assuming there will be Dark Templar, but this time around there is no Dark Shrine anywhere. And that means we are going to game number 7. It all comes down to this. Final game of the GSL Code S Grand Finals will take place on the map Pylon. Hero decides to start off the game by sending a probe straight across the map. Now, this is not likely for aggression. I think we are just making very sure that we are not dealing with some sort of shenanigans. Yeah, Protoss players like doing this in this matchup just to be a jerk. Yeah, just immediately start using that little laser to be as annoying to the Terran player as possible. And obviously, you get to see the timing of that barracks. And ultimately, the way that StarCraft strategies usually work, you don't so much think about seeing the structures of your opponent and then determining, it's a barracks. You more or less gotta view it as like a list of potential cheeses that get crossed off of the list. So when you see the barracks is building over here, it immediately means that about 10 different pushes that Cure could be going for are basically gone. When Hero sees the timing right here of that gas geyser, he knows that it's very unlikely that there will be like a proxy barracks on the other side of the map, or he can already figure out roughly where this Terran player is likely heading. Likewise though, Cure, he doesn't know anything. But that's one of the nice things about Terran in this matchup. You don't really need to know a whole lot. Especially if you want to go for a Reaper start, you can get away with whatever you like. Okay. Command center on the low ground will be Cure's next step. Reaper. Oh, not coming up. Instead, we've gone straight into a Marine. Okay. Really? Are we gonna go quick tech lab again? Yeah, we will. Huh. So in one of the previous games, he went for a very quick double Marauder opener, and he used it defensively, and then he followed it up with an SCV pool towards the other side of the map. I don't know if this is where we're automatically heading. Yeah, concussive shells first again. So, okay, there's 2 options. I mentioned this earlier. Either Cure has done his homework and he has seen, okay, Hero likes to go for opener X, Y, and Z. I can counter that by just going for this particular style right here. If this would, for example, be Stalkers straight across the map, I mean, there is a Stalker first this time around. He might be able to catch the Stalker for free, and then, well, it can snowball very aggressively in favor of the Terran. Alternatively, though, maybe this is just the style that he likes to go for, and he's trying to just, well, not die to anything dumb, and then in the meantime also set himself up for a massive 2-base all-in. Cure has now not made a third command center in like 5 or 6 games. It's been a bit. Okay, we have a reactor coming up. Factory also building. I guess this is for Cyclone production? Just to make sure you don't die to an Oracle build or a Stargate opener in general. Now, interestingly enough, this is game 7 of a best of 7. We have not seen a Stargate a single time. Only one game has featured Psionic Storm as well, if I'm not mistaken. Which is very interesting. Yeah. So, this is good old Blink. Good old Blink into good old Robo. Into good old Triple Gate, I would imagine. Looks like it. Yeah. Okay. The most conventional start here for Hero. But notice how in pretty much all of the previous games, he decided to go for a sentry quickly to get that hallucination scout in very early on. In this particular instance, he is not going for any of that. Sometimes I feel like we have arrived at something that looks mostly the same from game to game, right? That happens sometimes in a matchup where players tend to go for the same strategies over and over and over again. We have that right now, for example, in Protoss versus Zerg, where it's basically always Oracle openers for Protoss just because it is the best strategy to go for. This is a matchup where it seems to be a bit more up in the air. It is a little bit more random as to what exactly you could be going up against. Now notice here, and this is what I find interesting about Cure's build, Cure has not even seen the opponent other than that scouting worker. He's seen nothing. Like, he's prepared against a Cyclone, or he's prepared rather with a Cyclone against an Oracle, but he is setting himself up just for whatever, right? He can just deal with whatever the Protoss player has available, and I think it means that he's likely going to go for a push. We'll probably see concussive shells in this. No, we already had it, obviously. You already researched it really quickly. No, we will not see concussive shells researched in this particular tech lab. We're going to go Stimpack. Combat Shield is going to finish up not too long afterwards. We have another barracks or two here, building behind the natural mineral line. A third barracks behind the mineral line. Okay. This is once more a game where we are not going in the direction of a third CC at all. Good micro so far, though, coming out of Hero, using the Prism to effectively give these units double blink. He does lose one of them. He killed a reactor there and then also 4 Marines. Observer up in the main base, too. Does he see it? Does Cure see it? It's a tiny little blur. And that's all he's got. It moved. Yeah, it shouldn't have moved. If it didn't move, it is very difficult to spot. Humans are very good at spotting movement, not so much at, well, things that don't move. Hunters confirmed, dude. Look at us. Apex predators over here. Movement, we spot. When something is just kind of there in the middle of our monitor, invisible. All right, do we pull the boys? Sure, dude. Let's freaking go. We go straight into another SCV pool, and this one is for all the marbles. This is a big one for Cure. If he wins with this attack, and he's done it before in this series, he will win the entirety of the tournament. If, however, Hero can defend, and keep in mind, this is not charge slots this time around. I mean, he's got it coming, but this has been Stalkers to begin, so he's already been poking away at as many of these units as possible. It should be a little bit easier, I think, with Blink Stalkers than it is with Zealots up until this point. I mean, he is gonna need some charge slots, though, eventually. Here we go again. Cure decides to go for the bunker slow push. Siege tanks are leapfrogging one at a time. First Colossus is now available, but of course it will not have range available. Hero decides to pull the trigger. He's trying to target fire down those siege tanks in particular. Immortal not really helping out too much, but it did manage to shut down one of those bunkers. 10 SCVs have already died. This is going to put additional pressure on Cure. We have a little bit of Colossus juggling happening in the meantime. Warpins are coming in from 2 different bases. Siege Tank needs to step away because it is within range, although Cure can't actually see it actively. Siege Tanks can shoot away further than they can see. With the additional bunker now finishing up, Cure is feeling like he needs to get a move on. An Hallucinated Colossus also available here for Hero, which I actually quite like. The idea of an hallucination here, yeah, it might just be a prime candidate for those siege tanks to target fire down. Which of the Colossi is real? Hero coming in once more. The Colossi are putting a lot of work, though. Those Marines are melting. And look at the one low HP Colossus. It's the one that's fake. Hero is forced to dig deep in order to try and defend this particular attack. Marines have decided that maybe they should settle for damage over here at the third base instead, but the real Colossus is coming in again. Dangerous, though. Shield battery here is unpowered. We could do with another pylon in this region. Then again, well, he's mostly just looking for unit production. Only 42 workers available. Prism is going in around the side. He wants to target fire down those siege tanks. It's dangerous, though, because the Marines managed to shut down the Prism. Still, though, the Immortals finished the job. The Marines tried their very best to stay alive, but I think the damage was already done, despite the Prism and one of the Immortals not living up to its name. Hero, mostly just using the Stalker with Blink right now for scouting, because keep in mind, he can't see anything. He doesn't know exactly what there is available. How many bunkers are there? How many siege tanks have arrived from the other side of the map? The Marines may have found an angle, though, where they can target fire down that robotics facility. Stalkers blink behind the bunkers as he shuts that final siege tank down. Reinforcing Protoss units have just been warped in as well. A lot of the Protoss troops, man, are at like 1 HP, but I think Cure's army is starting to dwindle. There's just not enough available anymore. Bunch of probes decide to sneak on over to the third base. Hero is ready to force this Terran player off his lawn as the Colossi and the Immortals are closing the distance. GG gets cold. And just like that, for the very first time in way too many years, we've got ourselves a Protoss winning a premier StarCraft 2 tournament. Phenomenal series. Honestly, one of the very best sets of TVP that I have seen this year so far. That was a blast. Man, my whole face is red. I want to give a quick shout out to all of the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for directly supporting the channel. Thank you Blue Hair, Grimdy, Beinsterk, Thor, Jovo, Champ, Brisik, Patrick, Gavilan, Andy, Sysadmin, Lightswitch, Lucas, Ballistical, Killman, Robert, Jacob, Echo Soldier, Rextor, Shred, Papuch, Agaring, Krenlor, Strategist, Dustin, Naku, and Doomhome. I had to chrono boost that one out. If you want to be one of the legends over here too, you can head on over to my Patreon. But of course, thank you very much for watching. Hope you had a good time. And I hope to see you again in the next one.